Once my art teacher almost expelled me because I made a tennis racket with red stains and she thought it was a violent piece. Then she yelled at the principal, "This boy makes blood-stained weapons!" And they took me to the principal's office while my classmates watched everything. But when my parents arrived and the principal checked the artwork, I said, "I spilled pizza sauce on my racket, miss." And everyone turned to look at the teacher, really angry. Then the principal said to her, "Teacher, it's just sauce." She was being paranoid and had to apologize in front of my parents for being an alarmist. In fact, I still have the racket. After my teacher mistook pizza sauce for blood, you would think that food couldn't ruin things for me again until Christmas. Because one time at Christmas, they gave me the job of serving the Coke to everyone at dinner, and it was a big mistake because I'm very clumsy. And there I was, with the 3-liter bottle that looked calm, but was actually a bomb about to explode. Because when I opened it, it went boom. And Coke started coming out everywhere. And my grandma screamed in fright because I think she got flashbacks from Afghanistan because of the sound, and everyone ended up soaked in Coke. But the good thing is that she learned a very important lesson. The true Christmas spirit isn't in the dinner or the gifts, it's in the mess. Coca-Cola, espuma. That Christmas, everyone ended up soaked in Coke, but my brother ended up worse. Soaked in tears because he thought my dad didn't love him, since once my brother thought my dad didn't love him and actually hated him. And he was down for about 3 years. Because one day it was Christmas and my brother went to hug my dad to congratulate him. And he said, "Dad, I love you so much, you're the best dad in the world." And he grabs my dad, puts his hand on his shoulder and says very seriously, "I love you too, son." So that guy thought my dad hated him and didn't love him, and he went to the bathroom to cry so no one would see him. And I went after him and asked, "Why are you crying?" And he answered, "My dad doesn't love me, man. Sorry, little girl." My brother thought my dad didn't love him, but my girlfriend confirmed something worse. I loved pizza more than her. Well, one time for being a player, I almost went to meet my grandma in heaven. Because my sweetie, my girlfriend and I had gone to the movies. But I ordered a pizza and she said, "Give me some pizza, it looks good." But I told her no, because I was really hungry and I was going to eat it all by myself. So, just to keep my word, by the 6th slice, I couldn't go on. So then, even though I was full, I shoved in the 7th slice, but I couldn't take it anymore. And still, I ate it. Halfway through the movie, my stomach hurt and I had to run to the bathroom to throw up. When I got back to the theater, again, I told my girlfriend, "Here you go, my love. Since I'm a good guy, I'll give you this last slice of pizza." But honestly, if I had eaten that slice, I really would have... I almost died for not sharing a pizza, but my little brother almost killed my dad with embarrassment for sharing too much information. And it's just that once when my little brother was 6 years old, that guy had lice and they took him to the barber. But he embarrassed my dad because once they sat my brother in a chair, the barber, whose name was Juan, asked, "How do you want the haircut?" And my dad says to Juan, "School haircut, please." That's what they asked for. And then my super smart brother comes in and says, "Yeah, and because I have lice." And at that moment, everyone in the barbershop just stared at him. And my dad made this gesture to my brother. And my dumb brother sees my dad's gestures and says, "No, Dad, I do have lice. We shouldn't lie." In the end, they kicked them both out of the barbershop because my brother acted foolishly. Forgive me, little girl. My dad was embarrassed at the barbershop, but I suffered something worse. Losing my privacy at my most vulnerable moment. It all started once when I was using the school bathrooms and a boy poked his head out from under the stall. And I was pooping because that guy was a little crazy in the head, and sometimes he would even sneak into the girls' bathroom to spy. And that day I really had to take a dump and the crazy guy peeked under the door. And right at that moment I was about to finish my business, but I couldn't do it in peace anymore, so I kicked him for being an idiot. At least I was only scared in the bathroom, because in the next story, Chanita caught a real pervert and sent him straight to karma. The reason is that once when Chanita was using the school bathrooms, a boy was recording her with his cell phone over the stall while she was peeing. Because that guy was super perverted and he wasn't in his right mind, not even close. So sometimes he would sneak into the girl's bathroom to spy, and that day, Chanita asked for permission to go to the bathroom. And Crazy Maclovio followed her. But right at that moment, already in the bathroom, Chanita farted. Then dumb Maclovio laughed and Chanita saw him and punched him right in the nose. Some people only understand after an ass kicking. That must have hurt Maclovio's nose, but it hurt my heart when I tried to show my dad a video and he fell asleep. This was when my dad once humiliated me and I started crying because of something he did to me. Because one day I said, "Dad, look at this video from school that I made. It only lasts 5 minutes." So I grabbed it and put the video on the TV. Then I sat next to him because my dad was lying on the bed. And when the video was about 3 minutes in, I asked him, "What do you think so far?" And I turned to look and he was already completely asleep, so I got upset and went crying to my room because I was 10 years old. I cried because my dad couldn't last 5 minutes watching my video, but Carrie's cried even harder over a prank he played on his sister, which got him punished for 138 days. Because one time my buddy Carrie's played a prank on his sister, telling her that he had thrown away all her Barbies and she had more than 100. And in the end, Carrie's got scolded and punished for 138 days, which was the number of Barbies his sister had. Because the guy was bored, alone at home. So he decided to hide his sister's dolls. And when she came back, he yelled, "Teresita, I threw away all your Barbies and there went Teresita." And she ran like Lightning McQueen to check on her dolls. And when she saw they weren't there, she started to cry. And Carrie's was dying of laughter. But then Teresita started dying of laughter too. Also because Mom was standing behind Carrie's looking at him with a possessed devil stare like this. Carrie's thought that hiding Barbies was a mean prank. Until my grandpa and Chapulin took the grudge to a party crime level, since one time my grandpa became the meanest person in the world for throwing a maggot-infested dog at a quinceañera and ruining the whole party. Because one day my grandpa and his cousin Chapulin were waiting for the invitation to Victorina's quinceañera, but that invitation never came. Because Victorina knew that my grandpa and his cousin were troublemakers, so she didn't invite them. But out of anger, Chapulin goes and says, "You know, I saw a dog that got run over back there on the street. It's already got worms." They threw it into the party and my grandpa didn't think twice. They threw the wormy dog in and ran away. What my grandpa did was a country prank, but what happened next was a tragedy. Gamer with a baseball bat included. Well, I once had a brother who was kind of dumb because he spent all day playing Minecraft. So one day he broke the Xbox because I started playing with him, and by accident I broke half of his house in his world. So he went to tell my mom crying, "Manuelito, my house, Mom," but my mom said, "Calm down, Danny, it's just a game." That guy, crazy and silly, grabbed a baseball bat and started hitting the console with it because nothing had been done to me. And in the end, he was the one who got punished. And my mom made him sweep and mop the house for 3 months so they could buy another Xbox. This story was told by my subscriber Lionel Alvarez. Subscribe if you want me to share your story. That gamer tantrum was costly, but being too gullible costs even more. If someone says a tamale tastes good, it's best not to chew it. And once, when I was 8 years old, I almost went to meet God because the whole tamale got stuck in my throat. Because my dumb cousin Sardina told me that tamales are eaten without chewing so they taste better. And being the idiot I was, I believed him and tried it. But on the second bite, I already felt the tamale getting stuck in my soul. So I go to my mom and tell her, "Mom, I can't breathe. I think I have a tamale stuck in my esophagus." And in the end, I ended up in the hospital. But as for Sardina, we pelted him with tamales for being dumb. At least the tamale came out of my throat, because there's also the time my 5,000 peso headphones never sounded the same again after I lent them out. It turns out that once I almost died of sadness because of my mom, because she broke some gaming headphones that cost me 5,000 pesos and I worked half a year to buy them. Because one day I get home and my mom says to me, "Son, I lent your super expensive headphones to your little cousin Chanok because his didn't work anymore." And I just stood there. I was paralyzed, really scared, and I couldn't move. And I said, "Mom, I worked half a year for those." And she replied, "Well, work another half a year." So to make it up to me, she bought me some crappy headphones from the subway that almost exploded in my ear. The worst part is when Chanok returned them, they were full of earwax and one side no longer worked.
I'm a push the toxic L and beat up so rude it's
My headphones almost made me lose the will to live. But there was an even worse time when a nightmare made me want to see if I could still run and a dog chased me. What happened is that once when I was sleeping, I had a really horrible nightmare because I was dreaming that I couldn't run. So, to prove to my dumb brain that it wasn't real, that day I told my family to go to the park, and at the park I started running faster than my uncle could run. But then something started chasing me. A Rottweiler dog, except this one actually had all four legs. Luckily, in the end, I got into a truck so it couldn't catch me. After running for my life from a Rottweiler, I thought I had already seen danger. Until one night, my little Christmas tree started to smoke. It all started when one time I wanted my tree to shine brighter than the sun. I almost burned my house down with my family inside because my cousin Macario stayed over on December 24th at my house. And with the Christmas spirit at its peak. I told him, dude, we need to put more lights on the tree, so I found some old lights with exposed wires, but we didn't care and used them anyway. And with so many lights we put on the tree, it ended up looking like a UFO, and we left it there while we played Subway Surfers. But suddenly Macario says, "Sniff, sniff, does it smell like something's burning, or am I crazy?" And I thought it was my phone because it was old, but it wasn't. The tree was smoking, and in the end we put it out with cola. That Christmas, we almost set the house on fire, but then there's the day in my room when I almost triggered another emergency because of a suspicious vibration in the bed. The reason is that once I farted louder than a nuclear bomb in front of my girlfriend, while we were lying in bed because she was listening to music with her headphones and I was watching TV, but then my stomach made a noise like I had the devil inside. So I thought, I'm going to let it out very slowly so she won't notice. But unfortunately, my butt has a mind of its own and I can't control it, so it makes a really loud noise. Since my girlfriend was wearing headphones, she didn't hear it, but the bed shook and she asked, "Wait, does the bed vibrate?" And I was like, yes, but it smells. And she said, "You filthy liar, you farted." Oh. That fart almost destroyed my relationship, but what I did to my grandpa years before almost destroyed my hope of escaping his fury alive. This was when I once spit a loogie on my grandpa's head, and in the end, he ended up giving me a beating for being rude. Because I used to tell him he had the Gulf of Mexico on the back of his head since he was starting to go bald. So one day I said, "Grandpa, come here," and he comes over and I tell him, "For your head to really look like the Gulf of Mexico, it's missing water," so I go and do it. And I spat a ton of slobber on him, and he yelled like a real man saying, "Damn kid, you'll see." But I ran away, and in the end, he caught up to me and I was done for. If these stories made you laugh or entertained you, leave a like and subscribe before my family does something silly again and I have to tell it for emotional reasons.
Mama, I'm a criminal. Mama, I'm a criminal.